As mentioned earlier, the corporate reporting season in the United States kicked off after the trading session's closing bell, with Alcoa releasing its better-than-expected results. And it wasn't just equity markets holding their breath in anticipation of US profit reports. The commodity sector has also been waiting nervously to see what may happen. So for more on the current state of the commodity sector, I'm joined by Jonathan Barratt, Managing Director with Commodity Broking Services. Jonathan Barratt, welcome to Business Today.
Good morning, Whitney.
Okay, so let's start with Alcoa's result. It hit the top end of analyst predictions. What do you think that says about aluminium on the whole?
Well, Whitney, I think it's a very encouraging result. I think coming in at 13 cents when people expected 11, I think is very positive. In my mind, it suggests that the whole recovery is actually underway and could be sustainable.
So where do you see aluminium prices going to?
Look, at the moment they've been around that 2,000 level. We actually feel that the whole sector is actually consolidating still. If we continue to get the demand that we have seen, as we've seen in the results, then we'll probably expect to see the whole sector start to move higher. And I think for the prices, probably expect prices for aluminium to move back through that 2,100 level.
All right. Now, alumina is also due to release results. Should we expect to see a similar performance?
Yes, we should. We should actually expect to see similar reports. You have to think that 1/3 of the price, or 1/3 the cost of producing aluminium, is actually tied up in production. And we've seen energy under pressure for some time. So this should relate to good profits for the sector and also good profits for alumina.
All right. Now, Jonathan Barratt, the price for aluminium on the London's Metals Exchange is still down 40% on where it was in July 2008, that is. What would prompt it to hit those highs again?
I think a sustained recovery in the global economy. China, although it's starting to cool down, I suspect that if China and India continue to move higher, the US pulls out, then we should see prices return to those levels. It may take a bit of time, but I feel overall, given where we are, they should start to trend higher, probably in about the next 3 to 4 months. But overall, they should reach those levels down the track.
All right, let's move on now. Also in anticipation of the US earnings season, the price of crude lost ground, dropping below $75 a barrel. Why is that?
Well, I think that's pretty much a culmination of a few things. People are concerned leading up to the IP and retail sales in the States due at the end of this week. They're actually feeling that they're going to see weaker than expected data from that. Also, we've seen Hurricane Alex actually start to lose momentum, and that's, I guess, putting less pressure on the price of crude to go higher. So there are a combination of things which are causing crude to come lower and probably expected to drift lower just a little bit over the coming week.
All right, so is that stronger US dollar also weighing on oil?
Well, that's interesting, Whitney, because the US dollar has actually started to strengthen a little bit, I think, based on these expectations for numbers. And I think the US dollar in itself is actually weighing on the price of crude. If you look at the dollar index in itself has bounced off US 84. And I think the expectations are for that to continue to go for the time being. And if that continues to firm, then you'll probably see the price of oil will start to come a little bit lower.
All right. Now, Jonathan Barratt, we mentioned earlier in the bulletin that there's been a large surge in BP shares overnight. There's speculation it may sell off some of its assets. What impact might that have on the sector?
Winnie, I don't think it's going to have a lot of impact on the whole sector. I think with the BP scenario, that was pretty focused just purely on BP. I mean, the sale of some of its assets, when you look at the chart for BP, it's been a massive bounce from, say, 300p to just under 400. So I don't think it's the sector. I think it's purely the BP share price has actually found a low and the dips will be supported on it. So when I look at it, they're getting through this concern in the Gulf, and I think people are going to feel that it'll be a stronger company as a result of that once they get over it.
And what's your long-term price for a barrel of oil?
Look, Whitney, it's going to stay in a bit of a range, I feel. US $80 is probably where it's actually angling for at the moment. I think my expectations are for it to remain in that level for some time. If we start to see a good kick-up in the economies, then we'll probably see it trade a little bit higher. But at the moment, momentum in my mind is suggesting between that US $72 and US $80 a barrel.
All right, Jonathan Barratt, just before we go, China's due to release its GDP figures later this week, at the end of the week actually. They're forecast to be over 10%. There's also been much talk of a slowdown in China. So will a solid number inject certainty into the market?
Oh, it most definitely will. We're probably going to see good numbers as well, because the IMF released their positive news in terms of economic growth across the board. So I would not be surprised to see a good number coming out of China, and that's going to certainly help those equity markets. And if we have good earnings reports coming out, then you'll probably see the whole sector start to move on and equity prices start to move a lot higher.
All right, Jonathan Barratt, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Whitney.